place is disgusting. Seahawks beat the Browns. Let's get into it.
Russ takes the shot, one snap, Wilkes steps up, got running room, 15, 10, 5, he's going to go in, touchdown, Seahawks!
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hawks Nest. Well, our beloved Hawks once again strapped us into that roller coaster of emotions that they take us on a weekly basis as they fell behind to the Cleveland Browns 20-6 to start this game off, and things were looking pretty bleak. The Browns could seemingly do whatever they wanted whenever they wanted, both running and passing equally well. And again, the special teams unit started off this game by giving up a big play, which was echoes of that Saints game where that domino effect return there led to the eventual loss, our only loss of the season. But that trademark resiliency that's always been a part of these Pete Carroll coach teams rose back to the forefront as they were able to just kind of hang in there. The offense is as efficient as they've been all season, hitting on those big plays, being great in the red zone, and our defense was even able to cause a few turnovers. So Seattle was able to hold on for a 4-point win and still stay right there in contention for that division title and that first round bye and home field advantage throughout the playoffs, which I continue to keep harping on is absolutely integral for the Seattle Seahawks team. Sometimes it's hard in a football game to tell when one coach outmatches another. This game's played on the football field between the players, and there's really only so much a coach can do, and one could probably argue that his biggest impact is being done throughout the week as opposed to game day. But I really thought the in-game management in this game, there was a stark difference between Pete Carroll and Freddie Kitchens. Pete Carroll is certainly grizzled veteran. He's been through every type of game there can be. He understands how to manage games from a field position standpoint, his timeouts, when to use challenges, etc. While on the other side of things, it really looks at times to me like Freddie Kitchens is a little bit in over his head. He's a first-time head coach, and he just didn't seem to be as in control as Carroll is on the opposition sideline. And I thought that this was most readily apparent on a couple of different plays nearing the end of the game. On one, you've got Shakeel Griffin comes in and he stops a play on a catch, holds the guy up. In comes Trey Flowers, rips the ball free. It appears like it might be a fumble. Now, the officials don't rule it a fumble, and Pete Carroll doesn't challenge the play. Now, they might have said that his forward progress had stopped or perhaps that a whistle had blown, but regardless, Carroll didn't even pull out the challenge flag. He was valuing those timeouts like gold. Well, on the other side of the sideline, you've got Freddie Kitchens in a situation where at the goal line, they throw a short pass to Jarvis Landry, who appears to fumble the ball. Now, Kitchens throws a challenge right before they look like they're going to have a free play to go into the end zone with their running back having a free score. So he stops the score, does the challenge. They rule that the challenge is not going to be overturned. So Kitchens not only stops the score, but now they've got to go back out for fourth down, try again, and Seahawks stop them. Now, that was bad enough, but this came back into play later on in the game. And how? Well, you're outside of 2 minutes. You've got Kitchens deciding he's going to use his timeouts before the 2-minute warning. And what this means is that you get a play like DK Metcalf where the Seahawks convert a key last first down that they need in order to drain out the clock. And while it might have been a catch, DK is bobbling it a little bit. And if the Browns have a challenge flag and can throw it there, they can potentially get it overruled and still maybe get the ball back. But because Kitchens had used out all of his timeouts, they had nothing left in the tank to use. They had to just watch it and deal with the play called on the field. Seattle got to run out the clock in the victory formation. Game over. Coach Carroll's Seahawks coach teams over the last 10 years have been very, very good in close football games. And that's no fluke. It's because he understands how to manage things. He understands how to control the game. At times we play sometimes maddeningly old school, but the approach does work, and he understands how to be better than the opposition sideline most of the time in managing a football game. Hey, look at that. We got a new segment. Well, here I want to try to go through some quick hitter points because I can tend to bloviate endlessly ad nauseum on a given subject, and I really want to try to cover a little bit more ground. So, no, that's cool. Russell Wilson is playing flawlessly right now. I know I've said it over and over pretty much every episode this season, but it's worth saying when you've got an MVP running out there. He continues to not make any mistakes. He makes all the big time throws. He's right on point with his reads, his pre-snap, changing the things, all the things that he's done prior, he's continuing to do. I mean, he's assembling every tool that you could need in your toolkit for a quarterback. He has added it. I don't know what flaw you can find in his game at this point and say, well, he's not doing that. There was one play in particular, of course, his signature play, as far as I'm concerned, in this game, where you've got the middle linebacker blitzing right up the middle. Russell knows he's coming. He's aware pre-snap that he's coming, but he also needs to hold the ball for a certain amount of time in order to allow their route to develop with Jerron Brown to the back of the end zone. Russell held it until the last possible second, throws it, takes a mean hit right up into the midsection, but he puts the ball right on a dime to Jerron Brown. And this is a touch pass. It's not a laser beam. This is a ball he's got to throw almost before Brown even makes his break to the outside. Wilson right now is the MVP of this league. If you are an MVP voter out there and you don't see that or believe that, I don't care about Christian McCaffrey. Mahomes has come back down to earth. He is playing MVP football. Bar none, end of story. If he plays like this throughout, they've got to give him the award. O-line depth and quality. The offensive line, for the first time potentially throughout almost all of Pete Carroll's era, I don't think has been this good or had this much depth. When you see Jamarcus Jones go in last week against Aaron Donald and have a 93% win rate on pass attempts, meaning 93% of the time he's shutting Aaron Donald down when Russell's dropping back to pass. You've got nice depth in there as far as even behind this. We've got Phil Haynes coming back, the 4th round pick this year. You have Jordan Simmons coming back off the IR at some point. You've seen at times Posick look a little bit better when he comes in there. He comes back at some point at the end of the season as well. So you still are going to even maintain that depth as you move forward. Mike Iupati has been a real steadying force down there at left guard. I just feel like this team is really, really solidified that offensive line after it was a complete crap show for a few years there after that Super Bowl era, where it's just Russell's getting, overrun. The running game's got no holes. Carson's basically having to manimal it every time if he wants to get any kind of yards. And it could be the linchpin for this team as we go on to this season, because if we can run the ball on anybody, if Russell can have time to throw on anybody, then even if the defense doesn't take those steps forward that we think they need to become Super Bowl contenders, the offense could just be so prolific and so good that they're able to overcome that. There's been teams in the past that have done it. It certainly is a recipe that is not exactly what you see happen often, but it's possible. All right. Really sad to watch Will Dissly go down in this game. He looked like he was trying to turn back for a ball, and when he made the turn, his foot caught weird. Achilles injuries are horrible. They're right there with the ACLs as far as just they take a ton of time to come back from. They can have complications with those guys coming back as far as other injuries that now come up because of it. And the guy was playing amazing football for Seattle, as good as we've seen at the tight end position in the history of the Seahawks. It's obviously a sample size, but it was sad to see him go out. I hope him a speedy recovery. I still hope he is within their plans moving forward, because this is the absolute perfect tight end for this offense and what we're trying to accomplish. Special teams. I don't want to talk about it. I don't particularly like it. It's not my favorite part of the football game, but I didn't build this team. Pete Carroll did. And in building this team, he made the special teams unit part of his whole circle of toughness. The expectation is that that unit needs to be great. It needs to be just as good as the other aspects of his team. And unfortunately, over the last couple of years in this season, that's not what we're seeing, in my opinion. You saw the kick return that happened at the start of the game, and it was very much echoes of that Saints game where the punt returner took it back and housed it on us to start the game. It started a domino that led to us losing to the Saints. Likewise, in this game, you got the Browns start out, they take the ball back, they get the touchdown, you turn around and look, and it's 20-6 all of a sudden. It's a big momentum builder play. It can cause swings like that. It's not just a unit that you go, well, we just hope they can hold on for dear life and maybe we don't give up a big play. It can't be that. It's got to be a benefit to us. So it was great to see the punt block, but you also had a missed field goal. You also had that 20-yard punt of Dickinson, which I know he's getting rushed. I know it's a shortened point there, but he did muff the punt. He had a second to get that off longer than he thought. He just sort of rushed it up in his clock a little bit. Part of having 11 picks in this last draft should be that you have great depth, and that you should have also had guys that you drafted like Ben Burr-Kirven and like Shakeel Griffin, who should be really, really good at defending in that, but they're not. We're watching people get overrun in lanes and get out blocked. And then on the other side of it, Tyler Lockett can't get any room. He can't get any room in the punt return game, can't get any room in the kick return game. So we'll monitor how this unit goes along as the season goes along, but they've got to be a benefit for this team to get to that mountaintop where we want to get. Because if the defense is just going to be average to maybe somewhat good, and the offense is going to be great, then we do need the special teams unit to be that really, really good unit as well to balance everything off, in my opinion, to overcome a little bit of the inadequacies, let's say, we might have defensively. The deadline approaches, and I think this is going to be very interesting to watch what Seahawks management does here. You're getting Jarran Reed back this week, which is like getting a prime pass rusher back for that defensive line, and it's certainly needed. But with all the wheeling and dealing we've seen even late into the season over the last couple of years, you have to believe that Schneider's out there with a couple of his fishing poles in a couple of different fishing holes. And it would be great to see them, in my opinion, pull just another player for that defensive side of the ball. I feel like we need a little bit more of an injection of talent over there somewhere. Be it a cover corner, be it a defensive lineman, either way, I would like to see them get a little bit aggressive to go for it. This is one of the best starts you've had in franchise history. I think my brother was telling me it was 1980 the last time we were at this kind of start. Why not take advantage of it? You've made trades in the past like the Sheldon Richardson deal, like the Jadeveon Clowney this season, which were late in the game trades as far as the season was just about to begin. Why not be aggressive here? The team is 5-1. The schedule's set up nicely. You've got the bye still ahead of you. If there is a deal out there to be made, if I'm Schneider, I say go out there and make it. And even if you've got to give up one of those 3 picks, you got 2 second-round picks and a first-round pick, even if that's the case, I might be willing to go out there and try to swing that deal. Because one more defensive player, be it a guy that's a pass rusher, be it maybe a cover corner, could be, again, the difference to getting this defense just a little bit better, just to get it just an inched up. If you could take a Chris Harris, for instance, and put him out at slot corner now, maybe you wouldn't feel the need to have to play base all the time. You could be a little bit more comfortable going back into that slot corner role where a couple years ago you played with the slot corner out 60% of your snaps. You're nowhere near that this year. So I hope there is a deal to be made. It'd be great if he can move somewhere, pluck on one of these teams that's maybe not in it anymore this year. We'll just have to watch. Snyder's always cagey, though. You never know when it's coming.
Over, man. Rip it out. Rip that ball. Looking, throwing to the end zone. Ball's kicked up. Ball picked up in the end zone. Coming out of the end zone, Tedrick Thompson.
One guy I want to talk about really quickly here is Shakeel Griffin. This guy's playing some really, really good football, and it's great to see. He came out as far as that draft class where I think we had 4 third-rounders and 1 fourth-rounder at the top of the 4th round, and he's been the only guy out of that class that's really amounted to anything. So it's good to see him finally build off of that initial rookie campaign where he was solid into getting better and better and better. Last year, it wasn't as good by his own personal self-assessment. He said he played at a D+ rating. But this year, while I don't think he's necessarily at a Pro Bowl level, he's playing probably right below that point. And he had a key point in this game where he knocked the ball back to Tedrick Thompson. And if the Browns were able to go up by that point by 2 scores, with the way they were running the football game, that might have been all she wrote. So that was a game-changing play by him to tip that ball back. He does a little bit remind me of Marcus Trufant to a degree. Now, from a physical profile standpoint, they're different type of players. He's a little bit bigger, longer, heavier, a more assured tackler. Marcus was a little bit shiftier. But they both have that penchant for being really sticky on the receiver, and yet they're not the greatest with the ball skills. They can almost have a ball coming right at them like this, and it's just going to donk off their hands. Now, he's going to get some tipped interceptions for some other players because of this, but it certainly does maybe limit his potential ceiling. I don't ever see Griffin being this guy's going to get you the 5, 6, 7 interceptions a year, but he's going to be very competitive in coverage. He's going to be a sure tackler, which you absolutely need in this system, and he's just getting better and better and better as a player. The Seahawks defense remains a work in progress. It's getting a little bit rough to watch at times with this team. If we run up into any kind of offenses that have any kind of functionality whatsoever, there's just going to be times in the game where it looks and appears like they're able to just pretty much moonwalk up the football field. And to make matters worse, we're not getting any kind of pass rush. I think you had hoped with Ansah and Clowney, between the two of them, that they would at least give you a little bit more than what you're getting. I think we've got 2 sacks between the two of them. We're not getting any kind of consistent pressure between the two of them. Jarran Reed can't get back fast enough. But beyond that, this was a little more disturbing in this game because Nick Chubb was able to go off. He's a great back. He's certainly on his way to potentially becoming a star. But he ran all over the Seattle team. And when you're running that 4-3 base out like they are, and you're going up many times in that 4-3 base against 3 wide receiver sets, there really is no kind of excuse for giving up any kind of running game whatsoever. In this game, consistently throughout, the Browns were able to run the football. Now, Kitchens, being the offensive mind that he is, always wants to go back into passing the ball and throwing it all over the football field. So we were able to take advantage of his impatience, let's say. But beyond that, the defense just isn't looking very good to me as far as if we're going to look through the prism of Super Bowl contenders. Can this team get to the Super Bowl? Can this team beat a tough team in January to get there? And I don't see it with the way the defense is currently playing. There's those of you out there who may say, well, hey, after they gave up that initial 20 points in the first quarter, they were able to lock things down relatively good. And I would counter that by saying, look, yes, you had 3 interceptions. On one of the interceptions, 2 of the receivers ran into each other. The ball went over the top to McDougal. The other 2 interceptions were tip balls. You also had Odell Beckham having 2 key drops at times on 3rd down, which would have allowed for those drives to continue. The Griffin interception at the goal line, where he tipped it back to Tedrick Thompson, happened after a nice long drive by the Browns. The Browns were able to move the ball. Now, they shot themselves in the foot, and part of what we do in our defense and the way we set up our scheme is the bearing that you're going to allow for the offense to shoot themselves in the foot, and they will do so if you give them enough time. If you make them earn drives, if you make every yard just kind of be this slog rather than allowing for any kind of big play, then eventually they get impatient, you'll get an interception, you'll get a tip pass, something funky will happen that will work in your favor because of the amount of time it takes for them to get up the football field. But with that said, you're really dancing on the line between this is how we build ourselves schematically to hoping you're going to get lucky when you're counting on tipped interceptions to be the difference between you being an okay defense to being a bad defense. We've got to generate more pressure. They've got to relock down the running game. And it's going to be really, really important because this week, who do we have coming into town? The Baltimore Ravens, who've got a great running back, and their quarterback just ran wild all over the Bengals for about 150 yards. So continues to be a work in progress. I do feel like they're going to get better, but it's going to start to get really, really disconcerting here if we can't get any kind of pass rush, especially once Jaron Reed comes back.
Waiting the snap, takes it, looks left, throws inside, it's intercepted. Flowers makes the interception just inside the 20-yard line.
Well, that'll about do it for us today. I'm really excited for this upcoming game against the Baltimore Ravens. They're a team that in a lot of ways mirrors the Seattle Seahawks. They've got the mobile quarterback. They're very committed to running the football. They tend to have a very stout defense, and they absolutely value the special teams element of the game. As well, it's going to be fun to watch the inner dynamics at play between Russell Wilson and Earl Thomas. Russell is one of the best in the league at hitting those deep shots down the field, and Earl has traditionally been one of the best safeties in the league at erasing those big plays. So it'll be fun to watch the chess match that goes on between those two players. I really do appreciate all of you guys out there watching. Please do continue to like and comment. And if you're not already subscribed, please do subscribe. It helps the channel grow tremendously. We've got some great momentum that continues to go forward faster and faster. So thank you very much as always for watching. And please do not ever forget, go Hawks.